I'm really glad that I am not the only person noticing this trend of children's content becoming less for kids. And we're seeing this in so many areas of media. But a lot of YouTubers I've seen have been talking about it with individual creators, whether it be YouTube or TikTok videos, ads that pop up on some of these platforms, and just content that is very misleading and is clearly meant to be for children, but have very explicit themes inside of this content. So I'm going to briefly go over some of the more common ones that we've been seeing, but then I'm going to talk about something that I don't see a lot of people talking about and different ways in media that we're seeing this trend go on. And, oh, I'm out of frame. And speaking of things like social media, all of our screen times are actively getting worse, and it's important to remember to rest your eyes so they don't burn out of your eye sockets, which you can do with the sponsor of today's video, Manta Sleep. This video is sponsored by Manta Sleep. Manta Sleep is a company that's trying to start a pro-nap movement, which basically means they're just trying to normalize taking naps during our very busy schedules. It's important to rest the brain and the eyes, and in our digital age, when we're always looking at phones and computers, it can put so much strain on your eyes and just overall isn't very healthy for you. And they are trying to accomplish this with their one-of-a-kind sleeping masks. These masks are nothing like your regular old, flimsy and thin eye coverings that you use to sleep. Oh no. These masks have a soft and breathable fabric and eye cups that are completely adjustable so they don't put pressure on your eyes. And you don't only have to use it for sleep, you can literally just use it to rest your eyes during the day. The mask I happen to have is the Bluetooth speaker mask. They basically have headphones embedded in the sides of them, so that's pretty cool. As many of you probably already know, I am a college student, and one of the classes that I'm taking is philosophy. And if you're taking a philosophy class, you know that it can be very complex sometimes. And even though I'm not a big fan of audiobooks, I prefer to read books, especially physical ones. Listening to the audio versions of some of the texts that we're supposed to read, like works by Thomas Aquinas or Aristotle, I find that it's a whole lot easier to listen to someone recite them than to actually read it yourself. And I myself am also trying to take a break from the screens of my phone and my laptop because I use it 24/7. So with the Bluetooth headphone mask, I can do both of those things. I can actively listen to my philosophy text, so I'm still doing my homework, and I get to rest my eyes. It's a win-win. So if you'd like to grab your own, click the button on the screen. It's either here or here, one of those places, and use my code CaseAsia for 10% off on your order. Thank you, Manta Sleep, for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to exposing the media industry. Starting off with the over-sexualization of children's content. So many YouTubers have been noticing this trend of very explicit content being in videos and things that are made for kids. TikTok is one of the biggest offenders on this list, being that it is an app for 13-year-olds and up. 90% of the music that trends on there is incredibly provocative. Videos that trend and do well are most of the time overtly sexual, like certain dance trends and videos that you find on there, and some of them are subtly sexual, making innuendos and inappropriate jokes, like chefs who are sexualizing food. But unfortunately, this trend has moved on over to YouTube, except it's a lot worse. Now, I haven't seen any of these personally, but a lot of people on YouTube have been noticing that ads, literal ads that pop up on YouTube, is just straight up adult content. And you don't even have to have an account or be logged in to see this content. So younger audiences can literally just find this stuff without any type of restrictions, any type of warning, nothing like that. And there's even some inappropriate content on things like YouTube Kids as well, like that whole Elsa Gate situation of inappropriate and disturbing videos made for children, and even popular Minecraft YouTubers and Minecraft gaming videos that again are very clearly targeted towards children, even though some of them will swear up and down that it's not. I think this goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it because clearly we're not all in agreement about this type of thing, but exposing children to this type of content is not okay. Period. This shouldn't be a debate. It is very unhealthy to be exposing children to such provocative themes at such a young age, not to mention the type of damage it can do to getting them addicted to that type of content very early on. Because yes, adult content addiction is a thing. It's one of the more overlooked addictions, and I honestly don't know why. People always try to water it down like, oh, it's not a real problem. That's just some term made up by religious people and Christians who try to shame other people, as if we don't have mounds of research to support otherwise. There's a difference between the shaming of it and the entirety of its essence versus that being the only thing that you can see and perceive in life. The many consequences of having things be super overtly sexual to a young audience who can't fully process and understand these emotions. I don't see any reason to be mixing adult content together with kids. I mean, again, I shouldn't have to say this out loud, but the fact that I have to is concerning in itself. There's no reason to take children's platforms or children's content and mix it in for stuff for the adults. You don't play Cocomelon in the middle of 50 Shades of Grey movie or something like that. What's the purpose? If I'm not mistaken, I think it was the CEO of Roblox who said he wanted to open the Roblox site and community to things like dating in the app, making a more enjoyable experience for all people of all ages. That doesn't work if you're not going to put in the work to separate that atmosphere from the literal children using the app and playing with the games. Do people not have enough dating apps to choose from that they have to go to a children's game to find love? Don't you think that's a little weird, having adults come to a children's app just to find a companion? Does that not strike you as a little bit odd? That's like me going to Chuck E. Cheese's, you know, where a kid can be a kid, and me sitting down staring at all the single men in the arcade, wondering which one of them I can make my husband. Yeah, let me see if I can find me a MILF out here. It's just not a great idea, not to mention the other types of people that it will bring to that atmosphere, aka predators. And speaking of Roblox, the next thing that I think is a little less talked about is violence. And Roblox seems to have a good amount of that. Now, I don't play Roblox much, my little siblings do, but luckily they haven't come across anything too bad and violent. But the same is not for other people. There are so many violent and aggressive games, a lot of first-person shooter games like Call of Duty, and they also have a little bit of blood and gore, also like Call of Duty. There are even games that are remakes of traumatic events, like literal school shootings. And no, before any of you gamers end up trying to rant in the comments, this isn't a video games make kids violent argument. However, obviously video games alone isn't what causes kids to do violent things. So that doesn't mean it can't affect them in the way that they can be desensitized to certain things, how it alters their perspective of the world, the value of life of other human beings, and even how it affects their mental state if they're already going through things in their personal life, like getting bullied, already having home life issues. The National Library of Medicine talked about 24 studies that all concluded that children engaging with violent video games can be related to and promote aggression. Sure, just watching people use guns isn't going to have a kid want to shoot up a school. Obviously, the effects aren't going to be that quick and that severe, unless again there were previous signs of that type of behavior. But it also isn't really helping the situation either. And video games aside, movies and social media promote these types of topics as well. Wasn't there a whole gore situation on TikTok where people were taking videos from the dark web and using AI to put them or make them look like minions so that it wouldn't get flagged by the TikTok system? And it worked because videos of real life gore ended up popping up on the TikTok page. They were just dressed as minions, literally having these kids be desensitized to people hurting and murdering people in real time in real life. And some people might say, well, the problem is all of this content is made by individuals, people who can just throw whatever type of slop and inappropriate stuff they want into the world. So that's the main issue. Kids should be watching things from reputable sources and big companies, right? They have more regulation. And you know what? In a perfect world, you'd be correct about that. Except even the places where we think we should be comfortable with the content that is being pushed, we might not actually be able to, which leads me to my third topic and the one that I don't see anyone talking about. Violent language in children's movies. Please tell me it is not just me, but have you guys been noticing how many children's movies and like kid-friendly movies that has been coming out recently, where the characters and the voice actors and whoever are just getting very comfortable with cursing or just using, not so kid-friendly language in supposedly kid-friendly movies? Like every time you turn around, there is a new PG movie or kid-friendly movie or TV-Y show or whatever it is, whatever the rating is supposed to be, but it's a show and a movie that is obviously targeted to children that comes out and has some form of mild language in it that is seemingly unnecessary. It first jumped out at me when my family and we sat to watch The Incredibles 2. And on Disney Plus or whatever, when you have like when they show a movie in the top left corner, it'll show like warnings like that, like seizure warning, or this movie has violence or whatever. In the top left, it said this movie has mild language. We were like, huh? For what? It's The Incredibles, the beloved children's movie. Like, what? Why are y'all trying to change it up? The new Sonic movie, the new Ninja Turtles movie, the new Puss in Boots movie. All of these have some mild curse words and language in it. And the movie, again, is supposed to be like kid friendly or whatever. Oh, and if they don't outright use the curse words, they'll bleep it. They'll just bleep some of the language that they have in there. And that'll be the only joke that they stand on for the entire movie. They will have no other level of comedic timing whatsoever for anything else. They throw a few bleeped curse words in the movie, and for some reason they expect everyone to start kicking their feet and squealing with laughter. Next Gen is a perfect example of this. Oh my goodness. The amount of times that they bleep the implied language in that movie is so annoying, it just makes it unwatchable at a certain point. They could at least make it funny, but most of the time they don't. It just gets to be a very old joke very fast because that's the only joke they use. And I can already hear the unproblematic, nonchalant, it's not that deep people crawling from the depths of their cave to spew the same argument they've been trying to use for years. But curse words are just words. They don't even really mean anything. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, fine. I want you to go into your local grocery store. Doesn't matter which one. Just find one. And then I want you to find the nearest child that you can see in that store. Bend down to meet them at eye level, smile on their face, and start repeatedly cursing at them. You don't have to say it aggressively either. You can say it in a nice, high-pitched, friendly voice. Make it sound sweet, make it sound nice, but curse at them. And watch every single middle-aged woman in that store come to jump you, as they should. Look, okay, I'm not trying to go YouTube censorship mode and say that people shouldn't curse at all, or cursing is bad and violent, like that one funny skit meme. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. I don't even know if I'll be able to find it. I probably just sound stupid for bringing something up that no one even knows about. But yeah, like I'm not trying to tell people you shouldn't curse at all. You shouldn't curse like that. That's none of my business. I don't care. Personally, don't curse. I grew up in an environment where that wasn't really a thing that we did. We didn't use language, and I didn't grow up around people who did use language. So it's not really something that I have a huge urge to do or that I do around people. Like all of my classmates curse, my professors curse, my favorite YouTubers curse. And I love it when they do, because unlike these sloppy children's movies, they actually use comedic timing to their advantage. So it's always funny. So I'm not trying to shun cursing in general or just tell people they shouldn't curse. Like I literally don't care. But to say that curse words are just words and to water down their value is just to be delusional. Curse words are offensive and violent words. And whether you feel that way or not doesn't change the reality of how people perceive these words. You normally use them in moments of anger or aggression, or when you're trying to offend or disrespect someone. Of course, it's going to be different when, you say them with your friends. You curse with them and at them all the time because you're comfortable with each other, right? Okay, that's fine. But you're probably not going to waltz into your high school, go up to your teacher and go, "Hey, yo, what up, bitch?" You're not going to go to an interview and start cursing in your language or cursing at the interviewer. Or you're not going to go to Walmart and curse at the nearest kid that you see. Just being aware of these things that you won't do shows that these words have a specific understood value among us all, that you can use it in certain times and not in others. If some random stranger came up to you and started cursing you out, even if they did it in a pleasant voice, you'd still be upset, you'd still be offended. Because why are you randomly coming up to me? I don't even know you. Why are you coming up to me and talking to me like that? And you can argue that they shouldn't have this type of value in the first place, right? You can make the argument that, oh, well, they're just words, so I don't see why we shouldn't be able to use them in certain circumstances. People try to do the same thing with the N-word. I'm not trying to agree with them or anything. I'm just saying, right? There's people who are like, oh, the N-word shouldn't have that type of power. Whatever. You can make that argument. That's fine. You can have that conversation. That doesn't change the reality of the situation, though. This is just the way that it is. These words are meant to offend people and disrespect people. So when kids see the adults in their life and these characters using this type of language in that way, which again is mostly meant to be aggressive and disrespectful, kids are going to use it in the same manner. They simply look at what other people do and they try to replicate that, because children tend to have a more simplistic understanding of certain things. And that's not me trying to be insulting. That's just the facts, okay? I had to have this argument with somebody else in the comments once before, being like, actually, there are many children who have high IQ. Okay, first of all, IQ is only one part of intelligence. We're not talking about IQ right now. We're talking about the fact that kids literally haven't fully developed their frontal lobe yet, which is the main part of your brain for decision making. So if the primary decision maker center of your brain is not fully developed, obviously kids are going to have a very simplistic understanding of certain things. And there are so many videos that showcase this.
Thank you. You need to leave? No. Okay. Oh, he's out. Yeah, he's out.
Can y'all act like y'all love each other?
We can hurry up and go. I'm trying to go to school too. Come on.
Oh, put it down.
Now, I'm not gonna lie. Some of those clips had me laughing a little bit harder than I should have. But when you really get down to it, look at how these kids are choosing to handle their aggression. Children who are already very emotionally unstable, these kids who still throw tantrums and scream and cry, they're going to respond to situations like this. Instead of trying to teach them to be more mindful in their responses to situations, teaching them emotional maturity to try and speak intelligently and well, they're being taught that the minute you get upset, you go cursing at that person or go cursing at the situation. That'll show them, that'll get them to respect me and listen to me. And yes, like I said, of course, curse words can be used in certain circumstances when you need to express yourself. That's perfectly fine. But if that is your only outlet and utility to use when you are in a stressful situation, That's not going to do anything. And this type of behavior isn't going to stop where it is. It's going to bleed into schools, onto the playground. Next thing you know, 6-year-old Sally is calling one of her friends on the playground a beach because she won't get off the swings, and she's upset about that. 10-year-old Teddy is going to be telling one of his peers to F off because he didn't like what he said. It's not so much the words themselves, more than it is what they represent and how to use them appropriately, just like anything else. So it doesn't matter if it's just words to you, that doesn't mean it doesn't hold a significant weight to it. In which, I'm gonna be honest, I never really understood that argument, like curse words just being just words. Because what you're doing, right, is you're watering it down, you're watering down the meaning and the value of it all, right? Curse words, objectively, are the worst words that we have in our language, no matter what language it is. Like, it's words that you use in certain circumstances and not in others, because we understand the value and weight that they have. They are seen by many of us as aggressive language. So to sit here and water down and devalue the most aggressive language that we have, that does the same for all type of language that we have. Literally just saying that all words are just words and that they don't matter and that they don't have value. How does that make any sense? If words didn't have value and meaning, you wouldn't be able to read a book and cry about it or laugh about it or something. People wouldn't get emotional over people saying certain phrases to them, like "I love you" or something like that. It can't be just words if people have reactions to words like that. But anyways, the worst part about this entire situation is not only the direct harm it causes to children, of course, but what it also means for the future of children's entertainment. The implication that we can just push past these boundaries just because these things are becoming normalized. If once upon a time putting vulgar and explicit things in children's content was forbidden, but suddenly you cross that line, does it really matter how far you go after that? Once you've done the thing that you were already not supposed to do, it doesn't matter how far you go. Because you've already done it, you're just going to end up getting comfortable going further. Sure, it's just mild curse words now, but the next thing you know, they're going to be dropping a whole bunch of F-bombs during a children's movie. Sure, it's just some guns and a little bit of blood and gore now, but eventually they're going to go full Mortal Kombat mode and show heads being exploded. As a matter of fact, something like that actually happened not too long ago with the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie. There was this big debacle, apparently, that it wasn't very kid-friendly, in which, okay, first of all, just for the record, they were never for kids to begin with. That's not the issue. Like, those movies and Marvel movies weren't technically for kids. They were always rated PG-13. So there was a bunch of moms that got really upset and was like, oh, this isn't okay for my 10-year-old. It's like, well, he was never really supposed to be there in the first place. You're the one who decided to take him to a movie that wasn't for his age range. So that's on the parents. I'm not talking about that aspect. But apparently what made it so, less kid-friendly or whatever was that they used their first F word that they have ever used in a Marvel's like PG-13 movie. And I think they said it was a little bit more violent, like very gory and gruesome, more gruesome than other Marvel movies or whatever. But that's exactly it right there. Again, they're pushing that boundary. They're getting a little bit more comfortable doing things that before they would not have done. They're getting comfortable with doing this because people are allowing it to happen. People are just normalizing it. So many people will make fun of you for it and play the "it's not that deep" game whenever you try to bring this up in a conversation, because they don't want to seem like somebody who's problematic, or they don't want to seem like a prude or a Karen or whatever. You'll have the traumatized kids who are now adults go into the comments of certain videos and be like, I was watching gore since I was 10, or I was watching, hardcore adult content since I was 12, looking for people in the comments to validate them in their trauma. That's not a flex, bro. You're traumatized. Stop going to the comments to try and get someone to agree with you to make you feel better about what you went through. It's not okay that you found gore when you was 10. It's not okay that you got introduced to hardcore adult content when you were 12. Those are good things. Or the types of people who are like, oh, they were going to have to learn about this kind of stuff eventually. Right, of course. Why didn't I think of that? You know what? Why don't we start teaching them how to do their taxes? Give them a good old W-2, make sure they know how to do that. I know they're only 12, but they're going to have to learn eventually, right? Why don't we just teach them some calculus too? Sure, they might not be able to comprehend it, it'll be hard, but hey, that's just life. They're going to have to learn eventually. What's the point of living your life if you're going to learn everything about life within like the first 10 years of your life? The point is to take your time when learning these things, gaining emotional maturity along the way. It's the same way that we have different grade levels so that children can understand certain steps of certain things in life. It's all math, but it's all different levels of math. Sure, they're going to have to learn calculus eventually. That doesn't mean you hand a kid a calculus sheet in the third grade. Those are very complex subjects that they may not be able to grasp fully yet. So you take them slowly through the stages. It is the same exact thing with life's concepts. I don't know why this is so difficult to understand for people. Making kids learn such heavy topics within the early stages of their life when they are very vulnerable, asking them to have to process emotional topics topics that 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds and everybody older than them also has to process. It doesn't make sense and it's unnecessary. And y'all wonder why these kids are out here shooting up schools, having babies at 14, disrespecting people in their speech and being violent and aggressive to people. Like I said, I'm not saying these are the causes, but they sure don't help the situation. And at the end of the day, these all just make the businesses more money. That's what it's always about. That's why they turn a blind eye to it. Not only is it just more difficult to advertise when it comes to kids' platforms and stuff, and because of those restrictions, individual creators have to find loopholes to post certain types of content, but also just putting more adult things in children's movies makes it more appealing to a wider age range. So you're bringing in revenue from the kids and the adults and the older people. In the 70s, actually, it came out that the media industry was actually putting pressure on the US government to suppress psychologists and researchers that were linking this maladaptive behavior to the types of media they were consuming. Because of course they did. Because no, we don't need that type of information coming out. We need to make money. So don't let them put that out there. Thank you very much. It's always been about the money. So we can't rely on the big corporations to help because they're benefiting from it. And we can't rely on certain individual creators either because we're asking them to, look into a moral compass, which some of them don't have. And even if you try to be a good person or, not try to put that type of content or whatever, just not even a good person. Like I don't, it's just be basic common sense that you shouldn't do this in the first place. But even if you don't do it, of course, there's going to be a bunch of other people who will because they don't care. So it's up to the individuals as consumers in order to be careful of this. So I implore all the parents, all the older siblings, all the people who are watching over children to be a bit more careful about what they consume, whether it be from individuals, YouTubers, YouTube kids. Again, at this rate, just, I don't know, put them on PBS Kids or something like that. But whether it be from individual content and creators, I don't think you have to stop them entirely, but just, be sure that they're not going on to the other types of people who clearly promote other types of stuff and still target it towards children, but also for big corporations as well, for the video game industry and the movie industry. Of course, I'm not saying that these kids just shouldn't do anything or shouldn't have fun. Of course, I don't think that's good for their development. You should be able to let them explore certain things. Just be more mindful of what they consume. Again, children at young ages, the younger they are, very vulnerable, very impressionable. They will see it and want to replicate it and just absorb it. And don't let any other people pressure you into thinking that you're doing too much or whatever. Like, if you are doing too much, then don't do too much. Like, if you're straight up just restricting them from everything, okay, that of course can be bad for their development, like I said. But don't let people think you're being prudish or a Karen or Christian mom or whatever other type of stupid insult they try to throw at you just for wanting to protect your children. People are always so quick to criticize people on the internet and be like, oh, you're a bad parent because you do this and you do that. But then the moment where they actually are trying to protect their kids, you call them a boring parent or something like that. This isn't a competition to be the cool mom so that you can get validation from people on TikTok. Screw them. Nobody cares about them. Do what's best for your kids. Monitor what they have going on and make sure that it's appropriate for them to process. That's it. That's all that matters. It's the safety and the health of your child, not what people on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube think about your parenting. At the end of the day, that's what's the most important. These kids are our future, the next generation. We need to make sure they don't grow up like us with a bunch of trauma, okay? Man is a snazzy old man. That came off weird. No, just hear me out. He had like on this yellow, it wasn't a fedora, it was like one of those paperboy caps, like a bright yellow cap and a suit and a cane, and this beard is like really long and white down to his chest. I don't know, he looked cool, okay? Just leave me alone. Anyways, that's all for today's video. That's all I wanted to talk about. Please let me know if you have seen this shift and change in content either. Have you come across any of these disturbing ads or any of these types of games in Roblox? Please let me know in the comments. I would love to see what you guys have to say. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.